Hello, my name is Charisse Allen. I am 100% disabled, and I lost my housing. My housing was illegally taken by the Auburn Housing Authority in 2011. Basically because Alabama does not know and does not enforce low-income housing law. Our fair housing offices, things like that, they don't exist here. They don't exist. HUD, our housing authorities, they don't exist, but I'll let my case speak for itself. The first thing I'd like to show is, this is a statement, and I've sent a copy to HUD, to all the investigators who investigated my case. They overlooked all of this and just took the word of a racist judge, as far as I'm concerned. Not the judge in federal court in the 11th Circuit, but Judge Randall and Attorney Tommy Eden. They would not even communicate with me because they felt I was beneath them, and they were intimidated by the fact that I knew the law and they didn't. And that's malpractice. You shouldn't even be playing with someone's life, because I ended up homeless for 7 years. But I get $700, $755 a month. I paid for a dangerous hotel. I've been doing this for 8 years, and I just paid $290 last week, and I paid $290 this week, and I have no more money. And HUD will intervene, and I will be out of here. Now, keeping it simple, you have all this information. It says what you should do. This is from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. It says the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development places a high priority. I need to turn on this other light. I've been waiting 7 years. Y'all can wait 2 minutes. It says places a high priority on preventing fraud. It says if your application or recertification, Lord, I need glasses, form contains false or incomplete information, you may be evicted from your apartment. What is that? Required to repay all of the overpaid money, fined up to $10,000, imprisoned up to 5 years, and prohibited from using the program. And over here I put, because this is their Auburn Housing Authority attorney's thing. He says, I gave this to them, and on the side I said I was punished for not wanting to commit fraud. They tried to force me to sign paperwork without my medical deductions. This is a statement from the Alabama Mental Health. The deductions over here that I paid $157 during that year. It doesn't matter if it's a penny. I deserve it. I'm supposed to get it. It says right over here, my copay for my medicines were $1, 50 cents, $1. Then right here, I put on there just one example of unreimbursed medical medical expenses. The second thing is that I have a severe form, and at that time it was much worse. I'm in mental health recovery, but at that time I had a heart attack, and so my anxiety level was very, very, very high, and I was not able to ride like public transportation, taxis, and every now and then, if I had to go somewhere, I could possibly use a taxi, but I couldn't use, it was very difficult for me. So my aunt would come and take me from Tuskegee. She would come to Auburn and take me to my doctor's appointments, or to go shopping, or to go pick up my meds. And so those things are, those things count. Traveling for medical reasons counts. And on the this is information about the EIV. What is this? The Enterprise Income Verification. This is the system that goes in and it tells the housing authority what I make. It whatever shows up on here is what what I make. It's unquestionable. They put one where I get my SSI, my SSA, SSDI, which is what I put and earned into the system. I got, at that time, my whole check was $649. And when I had my heart attack, Social Security started giving me $153, but it went to my Aunt Frankie for transportation, to take me to my doctor's appointments. It was under my Aunt Frankie's name because it went to her to use. I couldn't claim it, and they threatened me. And I had more than that. They have it. They have it. I just don't know how to pull it up on this computer. When you're disabled, I have a learning disorder. I have dysgraphia, which makes it difficult to write, difficult to coordinate typing and reading and remembering things. But it doesn't make me stupid. It just made it very, very difficult to communicate and to type up and do what I'm doing right now. And I was threatened. The Faith Cooper from the director of the Central Alabama Fair Housing came to a meeting with me and tried to convince me to sign my paperwork without my medical deductions, which was fraud. But they didn't know that because no one speaks up. It is a predominantly black, federally funded program. And if you didn't want to give me my deductions, these laws have been in place for decades. How many grandmothers or mothers, black women, black children have died or been homeless because of this law? I fought for myself, and you made me homeless when you committed the crime. They said I wanted Tommy Eden perjured himself and said that I wanted discussed papers that had nothing to do with what we were talking about. These are the papers. Determining adjusted income. I wanted to teach him the law because he didn't know it. But because he was white and I was a poor black woman, he treated me very discriminatory. He treated me like, how dare you? And at one point, he called me, he kept referring to me as girl. And I was holding the papers. I said, please just read them. I said, your fact sheet. I said, it says on here, the Department of Housing and Urban Development studies show that many resident families pay incorrect amount of rent. The main causes of this, underreporting of income by resident families. And the second one, PHA's not granting exclusions and deductions. I wanted to show him that. How mandatory deductions, the $400. They gave me the $400. But under that it says, if it's 3% of that, it says unreimbursed medical expenses. That's what these are. It says, and it gives you an example on here of what those medical expenses are. It gives you a whole list of examples. And it says the PHA's responsibility. Obtain accurate income information. It says verify residents' income. Ensure that the residents receive exclusions and deductions. You didn't give me my deductions. That's why I didn't sign it. But Faith Cooper came into a meeting with me as my advocate. I didn't ask her to come because she didn't know nothing. He didn't know nothing. And they were angry because all they saw was a poor, black, mentally ill woman. I'm much more than that. I'm a Christian. I was a wife. My husband was Asian with 2 degrees from Georgia Tech. I was a leader in my church. But all they saw was a nigger. I will never stop fighting. Never. And I will never stop fighting for other black women that are treated the exact same way here. It says responsibility, residents' responsibility. Provide accurate information or family composition. It says keep copies of papers, forms, and receipts. I had receipts from taxis, going to the doctor, from everything. And I was trying to give it to them. And they were telling me they were telling me that they were just not going to accept it. Tommy Eden, they forced me to go to the lawyer's office. They lied and said I was a threat. The only threat I was of accountability, transparency, and change. And change. You can't be a black woman with a mental illness and stand up for yourself. And nobody stood up for me in Alabama. Not the governor's office on disability, not the governor's office on minority affairs. And people, listen, when you say you got a family emergency, when you say you got a meeting you got to go to, you all say that. When it gets too hot, when you're lazy, when you don't want to do the right thing. If you don't want to do the right thing, because this job takes compassion, passion, honesty, and integrity. And if that ain't what you want to do, because 7 years is too long for me not to have found one person to stand up for me. And I told you, I will be out of this on Saturday. You all will have me somewhere to live. Federal regulations. Highlighted it. I tried to give it to him at a meeting. He knocked it out. I don't want to see that. I don't want to see that. You look, girl. Attorney Tommy Eden, you sign these papers or I'm going to take your voucher. And he got so upset with me because I wasn't upset. I was like, I felt sorry for him because I was like, you're in over your head. You don't know what you're doing. Because to be good at something, you have to practice it. And it was evident to me. I had to tell Faith Cooper, I said, the majority of the people living in these projects are black. And a lot of them are women. I said, don't you think it might be nice to have a black woman on your staff? Do you know this woman went and hired a black woman and came to the meeting with me? I had a tape recorder at the meeting where they were violating my rights. A tape recorder at the meeting where they were violating my rights. And Faith Cooper, they didn't stop once. Why? They didn't stop once. Why? Because they're so racist and ignorant. And they believe that blacks are so stupid. Poor people are so stupid. Mentally ill people mean stupid. You're just culturally incompetent and ignorant. Now, if that's not enough, that's the first violation. Susan Crawford, Brian Green, Sarah Pratt. That is the first 504 violation you did. You allowed them to abuse me and not give me. They had calculated my rent. It is impossible. That's our next lesson. Fact sheet, U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. Okay, now we get to what your responsibility. Ensure that the resident receives exclusions and deductions. Accurately calculate family payment. Recalculate family payment when changes in family. In public housing, to delete with tenants, just by copy and required language. Provide tenant with a copy of the of the PHA determination of income. Look at this. That's not even half of my and you must excuse me, I'm hypervigilant, I'm tired, I'm scared. I had a heart attack at 38. I am 47. I've never had cardiac rehab. Because these people felt it was more important to put a black woman in her place. You cannot put God's daughter in her place. God picked me. And I honestly believe this. It's been a long, hard, difficult journey. But he picked me because he knew I could fight. He knew. I said, honey, if Harriet Tubman could get 1,000 slaves in an underground railroad, a little hunger, a little homelessness, a little assault, or whatever else I had to go through, indignities I had to commit, and the respect of my family, not understanding why I didn't sign. Let me tell you something. I didn't sign for every black woman in this state that has ever, with mental illness, that has ever been degraded. You will answer to me, and everything that I get and earn that you give me, I will use it to fight for every black person in this state, because there is not one black organization that cares about us. Not one black lawyer. You don't even want me to go down the list. You don't want me to go down the list of black women that turn their backs. Okay. Now let's get to Capel and Howard. I went to them because that's who he was working with at the time. They washed their hands. You can't wash your hands. This man was working for you. You fired him, let him go, and didn't do anything for me. Same thing HUD did. You can line up my paperwork with every person that got fired, from Tracy Mullins all the way down to Alabama. You could trace my letters all the way. I did this, I did that. You can look. We don't have no Section 504 coordinators, ADA coordinator. No, we don't. They have no clue what it is. You got to practice something to know it. Practice makes perfect. That's why they call lawyers, he has a practice. I dare any lawyer in the entire state of Alabama to sit down with me and debate low-income housing law. Charisse Allen, Alabama Fair Housing Network, at gmail.com. I welcome you to sit across the table and debate with me. None of you can. None of you. That's why you want me homeless, blacks and whites. That's why you want me homeless. Now, it says on March 22nd. Now this is what the Judge Watkins and the 11th Circuit was given. Let's go down the list of perjury. Okay, first of all, Tommy Eden should never have been, it was called malpractice. And at the time, I could not write a letter because I didn't know about my disability. I wasn't on the right meds for that disability. And I just had a traumatic heart condition. And I wasn't able to advocate for myself. And out of 8 years, there are 6 people at HUD that showed me compassion and kept me going. And to you, I thank you. Okay, so it says, now this is what a man, he got so upset in the meeting when I tried to give him the rules and regulations. He called me a nigga. I forgot about that. I'm from Tuskegee. So, when he got rattled and he was like, girl, I mean, he was really like, it was 1957. Like, he was like, look, girl. And I was just like, who is he talking to? I mean, I wasn't rattled. I date white men. My husband was Chinese. I mean, I love white people. Got a lot of white friends. I mean, but I love people. I mean, he was rather handsome. I mean, he was a racist son of a gun, but he was pleasant to look at. And I just kind of looked at him, and it slipped out of his mouth so fast, like he just couldn't believe I was standing up to him like that. Like, because you didn't know me. You assumed I've been in the projects my whole life. And even if I had, you assumed you knew me. You didn't know me. You didn't know me from anywhere. And once he figured out he was out of his league, he got frustrated. And he said, look, nigga. And it was just like, we both were just like, we both just kind of, and it was awesome. It really was. It was an awesome moment to see how fragile he was. It was an awesome moment of empowerment. And just to see racism is a form of weakness. It is. Racism is a form of weakness and inferiority. And I felt honored to be among my ancestors and those who've had to hear those words on a regular basis. I felt, just like with Jesus, when I suffer, he says, you suffer because I have suffered. You're persecuted because I was persecuted. That's how you know you belong to me. And that's exactly how I felt about that. So we're not going to make a big deal about it, but you did do it. You did it. You did it. And I forgive you. Because you're ignorant and you don't know any better. Okay, so right here, 24 CFR 982555, informal hearing. Okay. Basically what happens is they take me through hell. They cause me to lose my cardiac rehab. And they take me through complete hell for months, from August until I had 2 relapses, from August until the 3rd of March, when my advocate, Marina, thank you, stepped in and pull rank. And so I ended up finding this beautiful home with a Christian and wonderful white landlord whom I love. Thank you so much for everything you did. And my home was beautiful. But they kept asking me to sign, and I said, nope, I cannot sign. You cannot calculate my rent without my medical deduction. So I went to Sherilyn Gardner, and I told her that they wouldn't, and she was upset because I wrote a letter to the president in November, and 3 of her top people got fired, and 1 went home, and he passed, and that was very sad, but it wasn't my fault. And so there was a lot of animosity. Blacks get mad at blacks when they stand up for themselves. I don't understand that. That's like getting mad at Martin Luther King. And I'm not saying I'm Martin Luther King, but at least Rosa Parks. I mean, it took courage to do what I did. Anybody else would have just signed and been like, whatever, I'll pay the whatever. No, it's the principle. And so he says on March 22nd, as a result of Charisse transferring this Tommy Edens, and this is exactly what he gave to the judge. He said she was notified in writing. And mind you, and I have it in the letter that I'm going to give to you. I'm just kind of filling it in. But mind you, 3, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. 4 days prior to this, they had pushed me so far that I had a nervous breakdown, and I started breaking things in my house, and I just called 911. And that was the first time I ever had to be committed into a hospital. And it was just a very low point in my life, because I was very proud of the fact that that never happened. But for months, they had been tormenting me because they had been breaking the law. The first thing that Miss Pascal ever gave me, it was from the Bush. It was from the Bush era of HUD and disability, what you needed to do. And 2 months, in June of 2010, Obama, Sandra Henriquez had a new thing that came out, and it was like it was written for Alabama, especially for Auburn Housing Authority, and they didn't have it, and they were forcing me when it had already been expired and there was something else to replace it. And so things like that were very traumatic for me, because I am a survivor of sexual assault, and my therapist said that my rights, when they are infringed on, I fight not to ever be a victim again. And so it's like a rape of my soul when my rights are violated. And so he puts on here, we're going to go over his, and then we're going to go over the truth. It says on March 22nd, as a result, now mind you, I've just gotten out of the hospital. They told me, you know what you're doing. They kept me one day and said, you know what you're doing. Don't let them do this to you. Stay calm and focus and fight. But it was no matter what I did. Judge Randall Thomas, they were just so corrupt in the Auburn Housing Authority. They were just so corrupt. They just and the state was so racist that people would listen and discriminatory toward me because I had a mental illness, that everybody assumed, even my family, some of my family assumed that I just had to be wrong. And so March the 22nd, 2011, as a result of Charisse Allen transferring to Section 8, she was notified in writing that there were confidential documents. And what he's talking about are the documents for my HUD housing. It says that the AHA had an appointment that was scheduled on March the 30th, and Charisse Allen was also provided a tenant notice of rent change in the same mailing, Exhibit A and B. On March the 30th at almost 11 o'clock, Charisse Allen called Glenn Ritter at Section 8 Administration. Star Paxel sent Charisse Allen a second appointment, because I refused to meet with Star Paxel because she's just culturally incompetent, and she's just not someone, she's black, but she's just someone at that time. I don't know how she is now, but at that time she was someone that exacerbated people with mental illness, any person. I had a client that was pulling out her hair every time, like 3 days before she knows she had to go see her. She was just rude and mean, and she's a black woman, and black women, we've got a lot that we need to work on. when it comes to professionalism, and especially when you're working with people with disabilities. She was just disgusting. That's the best way I can describe her. She was absolutely disgusting and rude and mean and cruel. And she seemed to be mentally unstable to me. And I said seem, I don't know. Or she might have been going through something, or pregnant. I don't know. But she just did not need to be in that job at that time. And I was young. And I was emotionally unstable, but I don't get paid to do what she's doing. The people that get paid to do it need to be able to relate and deal with people like me in a way without triggering me and exacerbating my illness. And she was horrible. The staff was racist. One older white woman at the front desk, she had like a bonnet and some high heel clip, like some off a hee-haw. And I love hee-haw, but I mean, that's what it was like. And she was like, I mean, I didn't even tell her anything. She didn't even know who I was. And she was like, why are you making this big fuss? None of these people are getting their exclusions and deductions, and they're not complaining. And she's pointing, an older white woman, she's pointing to the whole black projects. And I mean, she had no clue how offensive and discriminatory and racist that was. They have no clue. And so it says, so of course I did not want to go to a meeting with her. I just come from almost breaking my house in half and being triggered, and I had not acted out that way in years. And they had just abused me for so long, it had taken a toll. So wanting to go see them was the last thing I wanted to do, because the main point is that you're breaking the law and you're asking me to break the law, and you're not willing to move because you're wrong. I'm right and you're wrong, and you're not even willing to look at the law because you're racist. And you think you're better than me, and you think you're smarter than me, and you might be smarter than me, but not when it comes to low-income housing law. You're not. You're out of your league. And instead of being humble and doing the right thing and listening to me, you're trying to force me to submit to you, and in doing that, breaking the law. And that wasn't going to happen. And so we were kind of like two bulls head to head, and I was just not emotionally, mentally, financially, and especially physically capable of dealing with it. So when they called me and said they wanted me to come in, I was like, I won't meet with her. I won't. And so it says on March 30th, I just didn't show up. Charisse Allen and Glenn Ritter of the AHA and called Charisse Allen called Glenn Ritter of the AHA and stated that she was refusing to come in to her appointment because my therapist had told me, don't go. Not without a Section 504 coordinator. And we're going to talk, we're not even getting to that. They don't even have them. They still don't have them, but they didn't even know what they were then. I had called all of the executive directors, like Mobile, Birmingham, Montgomery, the big cities. They had no clue what I was talking about, and it's not their fault, because the person over my 20 counties in my area at HUD, Alabama, he didn't know what I was talking about. So it was just really a mess, and instead of working with me to improve and really build something awesome, they threw me on the bus and tried to cover it up. But they didn't know I know how to climb from under a bus. So it says on March 30th, of course I didn't want to go. I was trying to recuperate. Sometimes it takes me 6 months to come back from something that traumatic, and they're asking me to come in there a week later, and I was like, no, I don't want to see Miss Pascal. And so on March 31st, Charisse Allen telephoned Glenn Ritter and mutually scheduled an appointment to come in to sign her Section 8 paper voucher on April the 13th. No, we didn't. We made an agreement for me to come in, and I can prove it right here. That very appointment he's talking about right here, we agree. Hold on one second. Holly here. Basically what we agreed to, I agree. Okay, here we are. Right here. That's March 1st. Capella House, you need to come and sign your paperwork, okay? And then it says, beginning March 1st, I will have a new, and they wanted me to sign it. I said I can't because you've already, you got my rent and you didn't do my deductions, so I can't sign it. Right here, same thing. It says, I understand fully that if I, it's basically, if you lie on this, if you withhold something on this, you can go to jail just like the other one. Then then they have this one, which says my new address. It says 0 for medical deductions. It has my $400 for being disabled. But it says my total deductions. Medical expenses. What is that? Medical expenses, other expenses that relate to that, or just other expenses that you have that take away. Zero. I had $253. Same thing right here. Expenses circled here. Medical expenses, disability expenses, over $253. Miss Pascal, 2007. Right here it says, under penalty of perjury, I hereby certify that under penalty of perjury, that the declaration I have made is, I'm sorry, I don't have my glasses. This is true and complete. I understand and acknowledge that any knowing or willful misrepresentation of this document may result in civil liability. I can't sign that. It's wrong. I can't sign that. Now here on March 7, Sherilyn Gardner is from HUD is doing a. Now I'm telling her all this is going on. All she has to do is go. Guys, you got to give her deductions. She was retaliating against me for writing a letter to the president, telling them that they had no 504 coordinators. I mean, they didn't, and that the guy that was over my case didn't know what one was, because he didn't. I had every right to say that. Okay, same thing on here. Okay, what does it say down here? It says I am in home I am in now. No voucher, 5 months I've been there. Okay, and then here again is 0. And then here I give them this one that shows how you add it up. Total disability. The only way you can come up with annual income, 3% of annual income, and then you subtract that from total disability assistance expenses, allowable disability assistance expenses, and that's how you come up with my rent. But they didn't do that because they didn't. It says allowances for medical expenses. Now right here it says the medical expense deduction is permitted only for households in which the head or spouse is at least 62 or disabled. 100% disabled. Me. My aunt's getting 153 and I'm getting 460 something at that time. It says if the household is eligible for medical expense deduction, the medical expenses of all family members may be counted. That's your children, their aspirin, their everything. It says medical expenses are expenses anticipated to be incurred over a 12-month period. Now right here is the one that really gets to me. That's why I've got a star by it. It says not all elderly and disabled applicants are or participants are aware that their expenses for medical care are included in the calculation of adjusted income for elderly and disabled households. For this reason, it is important for PHA's, public housing authorities, staff to probe, meaning to dig, to fight, to ask questions, not to cover up, not to make them sign without them, not to do what Auburn Housing Authority was asking me to do, what Faith Cooper was asking me to do. It says they don't know. It is important for PHA staff to probe for information on allowable medical expenses. It says these may include services of doctors and healthcare professionals, services of healthcare facilities, medical insurance premiums, and it goes on to say transportation, this, that. You're supposed to probe. Not only did they not probe, but they wrote in here that I came to sign and she insisted. What did they say? I'm going to read it right over here. It says Charisse Allen was sent a follow-up appointment on April 13th. That's when I came in. Now, they talk about me losing it. Let's see. I've shown you the fact sheet. He refused. He called me girl. He called me nigga. They made me lose my Medicare. I've had no cardiac rehab. I'm in a beautiful home that they're threatening to take away from me. I've just gone to the hospital, gotten out of the hospital for the first time, and they decide that they want me to come in for a meeting. Now, they lied to me and tell me, because I told Mr. Ritter, I said, no. I said, if you're not going to give me, and this is April 8th, I wrote the IG, I am writing HUD's IG office to file a complaint, and I told them everything nice and neat. Took me forever to do it, but everything is in there, and they did squat, nothing. So on the 22nd, like he said, I got this letter. On the 29th, I got this one from my East Alabama Medical Center. This is where I was in the hospital. It says, Charisse Allen was a patient in this hospital on 3/18 to 3/19. Now, they're asking me to come in on 3/30th. And was diagnosed with general anxiety disorder and obsessive compulsive disorder. She would benefit from vocational rehabilitation to mitigate the effects of these illnesses in order to engage in productive work. Her treatment plan with respect to these illnesses will also include ongoing medication management and psychological therapy, which I believe should be provided by Dr. Rubio in Auburn, Alabama. So I've got that one. That's why I didn't go on the 30th. I've got that one because they're really skeptical about me going because of the corruption of this housing authority. So Mr. Ritter, he writes me a letter on the 30th. Miss Allen called me, I guess documenting. I called him that morning, and I told him that I refused to come in to her appointment, which was scheduled for 10 a.m. It is now almost 11, and she has not shown up. Please send her a second a second letter. And he's talking to Miss Pascal. Now, at this point, Miss Pascal, just the sight of her, she had traumatized me so much. Just the sight of her infuriated me. It hurt me. It physically and emotionally hurt me. And it hurt even more because she was a black woman for some reason. Then on here, I told Mr. Ritter I don't want to sit with her. So Mr. Ritter sends me another email. He says, Miss Allen called me today. Oh, I called him because I wanted to come in, but I just couldn't come in to see her. Miss Allen called me today and scheduled an appointment to come into the office and sign her paperwork. Her appointment is April 13th at 10 a.m. I will send her a letter confirming the appointment and give Star a copy of the file. He sent me a letter on the 31st. There's no mention of this letter. There's no mention of my deductions. That's why I didn't. They just said that like I was just some kind of psycho that refused to sign. I did want to break the law. I've been homeless for 8 years because I wanted to do the right thing. But because they were rot white and they were rich and they had a degree, people discriminated against me and assumed they were right. And you were wrong. And you owe me apology and much more. It says on April the 13th, Miss Allen arrives at approximately 10:45 a.m. and was accompanied by Representative Central Alabama Fair Housing Center. I wasn't studying that lady. She doesn't know anything, and she's racist. I've experienced very racist, but I didn't invite her to nothing. She had the nerve to show up with some young black lawyer because I challenged her a month before. I mean, Alabama. Ignorance. It's ignorance. I felt like I was in 1947. Not 50. Not 63. Not when the Civil Rights was passed. Like I was 1947. It says she was accompanied by... I was not accompanied. That woman can help me with nothing. She didn't know nothing about nothing. I have not met one person yet, and I'm not being arrogant or my disability has me in. I'm telling you the truth. I dare anybody in this state to sit across from me and debate low-income law. Anybody. It says, Mr. Ritter met with Ms. Charisse Allen and her representative. I don't even like the lady. How's she my representative? I had $40 to my name. And I spent it on a taxi because I had my anxiety. I couldn't ride the bus. $40 to get to this meeting. And it said I arrived approximately at 10:45 a.m. and Glenn Ritter met with Miss Allen and her representative. She was not my representative. And the AHA interview room. I taped the whole thing. Now, mind you, these people are breaking these laws, and I'm taping. That's how arrogant, racist. They knew you wouldn't help me. Whoever you are out there. And a lot of you guys, I've been over 600 organizations, and I've been to some organizations twice because a new president came in, and none of you helped me. None of you. That's why I created the Alabama Fair Housing Network. We gonna help ourselves. We gonna help ourselves. I'm gonna train other black women with mental illness how to help other black women with mental illness. We don't need you anymore. It says he informed her. Oh, wait a minute. Miss Allen and her representative in the AHA interview room to sign her paperwork. He informed her that the only purpose for this meeting was to sign Section 8 paperwork and answer any questions she might have regarding that paperwork. Miss Allen attempted to discuss other matters not pertinent to the purpose of the meeting. You want me to sign about my rent? Fraud. Fraud is not pertinent. Fraud. You supposed to probe, Mr. Ritter. It says you're supposed to probe. It's not pertinent. That's perjury. That's perjury. She came as my representative. That's perjury. Now, what is really perjury is on March 31st when he wrote me that letter. Dear Miss Allen, This letter is a follow-up regarding the phone conversation today. Per your request, you have been scheduled to sign paperwork necessary to continue your assistance on Wednesday. As a reminder, Mr. Glenn Ritter, who I met with, if you have any medical expenses you would like to review, please bring them to the appointment. You damn right. I almost lost my fucking mind. Excuse me, Jesus. You moved me in a house with roaches. You had caused me to lose my cardiac rehab. My son had gotten back from Iraq, and I had nowhere for him to go, nowhere for him to stay. My only child. You had degraded me. You called me a nigger. You treated me like dirt. And HUD was allowing you to do it because I wrote a letter to the president telling him the truth. And you call me to this meeting. I paid my last $40. I don't have any other money. And you tell me, and when I get to this meeting, right there. Can everybody see that? Can you see it? Can you see it? Right there. Right there. But HUD, you ain't got that in your paperwork. You ain't got my exclusions and deductions in your paperwork. Violation of my Section 504 rights. Another violation. Entrapment. I have a mental illness. You damn right I went off. And I handled it like a professional, because anybody else in my situation would have set that ablaze. Would have lit it up. You people are the reason why we have Virginia Tech, Columbine. What you did was unconscionable, unethical. It was evil. And you disgust me. But I forgive you. But you disgust me. Now, what does Tommy Eden have to say? I think he should lose his license for a year. And this will be sent to the tape, and my paperwork and my letter will be sent to legal aid in Alabama and to the new black woman in Chicago that's over it now. It will be sent. You should be Tommy Eden, you're disgraceful. But I forgive you. You're not worth going to hell for. This is what Tommy writes. I want to talk about stuff. What does it say? He informed her that they were the only purpose for this meeting was to sign Section 8 paperwork and answer any questions she might have regarding that paperwork. Charisse Allen attempted to discuss other matters not pertinent to the purpose of the meeting. It is important for PHA staff to probe for allowable medical deductions. Probe means dig. But I want to talk about, that's perjury. That's perjury. You made this judge think that I was just in there, some nigga just ran like I was crazy. You're disgusting. You're disgusting. And you should lose your license. It says, the Central Alabama Fair Housing Center representative urged Charisse to sign. You urged me, Faith Cooper. I looked at Faith Cooper. I'm taping now. Here's the tape. I looked at Faith Cooper and I told her, I said, you accepted $325,000 to protect the rights of Macon County. But when I asked you to help me when I had my heart attack, you told me there was a conflict of interest because you had represented the man who owned the apartments. That man owned about 60%, maybe 70% of the apartments, the federally funded apartments, and he's white, and she's white. And you're getting $325,000 to protect us, and you can't protect any of us because you have represented the man that owns all of our apartments. That's embezzlement, sweetheart. It's called embezzlement. But you tried to encourage me to commit fraud because you don't know low income law because you don't practice it. You get those $325,000 and you help middle class people with mortgage problems. And you scatter a little bit here and there on poor little Negroes and white trash. You scatter a little bit to us just to look good. You're disgusting. You're disgraceful. And you went to a judge and told a judge. How is a judge supposed to believe a black woman in Alabama with mental illness over two lawyers? One over the Fair Housing Department. You are a disgrace. And Holly Poteet, you might as well retire. I have so many women. Desperate Impact. Every time I look at a case, you are somewhere on there doing something underhanded. Oh, and I got your little letter that you did here when you went behind my back and you helped him to say that I had a representative and a lawyer. You know why I had one? I'm going to show you why I had one in just a minute. Now, this is the first thing. It says, at that time, she continued to rant about other issues, at which time she was again asked by Glenn Ritter if she intended to sign the paper. I ranted. What am I? What am I, your slave? Your dog's poop pick upper? I ranted. I'm a grown ass woman. I was advocating for myself. I wasn't ranting. And if you knew HUD law, you would have known that. I was ranting. Perjury and my character. Defamation of character. Like I'm some crazy mental case. Had all those papers in my hand. Could have took one look. Faith Cooper or him. Racist. All of them. And I had the tape on and I told them, it said, he jumped up, Mr. Ritter, lost his temper. You the one told me to come here. You the one said if I needed any medical. How you just going? Because you white. Because you racist. You may be the Klan. I don't know. That's how y'all act. Y'all all together. It's the judicial. It's everything. Y'all all together. You, Tommy, the same way. Y'all had no intentions of learning the law. Because you never thought you were going to come across nobody that knew it. In and out the way I do. In and out. In and out. Head to toe. And he snapped at me. God, we're just going. I mean, they had no concern about that tape. Like, they just knew that I mean, it was like the Klan. Like, they just had everything in Alabama on lock. That nobody was going. Well, I've been homeless for almost 8 years, so I guess they got something on lock. But you still committed perjury. But where's that in here, Tommy? Where's that? That they told me to bring my. They told me to bring my my medical work. Where's that on here, Tommy? That's another form of perjury, violation of my 504 rights. As a disabled person, I have a right to medical deductions, even if it was a penny. And then we go on down. He says, after I finished ranting like a lunatic, you know what I did? I got up because I couldn't take it no more. They had been doing this. They had cost me everything. They had been doing this to me since August the 2nd. And I couldn't take it no more. I got up politely. I told him, I said, "You're a racist." And I pointed to her. I said, "You're going to prison for embezzlement." And I looked at the black girl, the black young lady. I said, "The only reason you're here is because I challenged her last month to have a black lawyer." I said, and I will see y'all later. Goodbye. And I went and got ready to walk out. The young black lady came behind me. She said, "If I can get them to listen, would you?" I said, "Sweetheart, let me tell you something." I said, "The only reason," I said, "You're a token." I said, "That woman's going to jail. That woman is corrupt. Get as far away from her as you can." I called there in 2 weeks. She was gone. Thank you, Jesus. Now she's got a black girl there who's executive director. I called her. She ain't calling me back. Well, I guess she in the same category with the minority, what is it? The governor's office on minority. I guess this same as that. What good is it to have a black woman in an organization when she looks down on other black women? When she doesn't care about poor black women? Until we are all free, we are all enslaved. Even you. It says on April 18th. It says Charisse then expressed her feelings toward Glenn Ritter by calling him a racist. He is. And I know a racist when I see one. I know racist behavior. I'm not overly overt. He's a racist. You can take it any way you want. I ain't been wrong on nothing else on this paper. And directing an obscene gesture, I threw the fucking bird. Excuse my language. I sure did. And that was the first time I ever had an opportunity to give them what they deserved. Because right then at that moment, I knew I was going to have to face them head to head. On neutral ground. I flipped him off. I flipped her off. And I walked out the door because so much rage was inside of me. And I'm not a fighter. I don't even know how to throw a punch. I wasn't raised like that. I was raised to be a lady. But I felt so much anger. And that's the only thing I could do. How dare you talk about what I've done compared to what you've done, and I'm not even halfway finished. How dare you? Because you think you're superior. You think there's a different standard for you. You are racist. And Tommy, you did call me a nigger in that meeting. You kind of chopped yourself off at the end, but you did it. And you couldn't even control it because it was you. It was your heart. It says she got angry and belligerent. Oh, honey, I was not belligerent. You'll know when I'm belligerent. As Charisse Allen left the office, she came back into the doorway and again, twice directed an obscene. Just say I threw the bird. I threw the bird again. And it felt good. Because I had all this rage inside of me. I wasn't finna go and tear my house up. I told them both what I wanted to say. F you and F you. You racist mother, not knowing what you're doing, unqualified. How are you my representative and you sitting next to me telling me to commit fraud? That is absurd. Only Alabama. Only. Telling me to sign the paper without my deductions. Won't even look at the laws. Because they don't care. Because they're racist. They racist. On April 18th, 2011, Charisse Allen was provided a notice of termination for not signing the papers. That would have been fraud. But see, when you're working with a system that has a HUD office that's over 26 counties, and he doesn't know what a Section 504 ADA coordinator is, this is what you get. This is the housing authority you get. It says, on April 18th, Charisse was provided with a termination of notice. Why are you terminating me? Tuskegee gave me the voucher. If you wasn't trying to be racist and dirty, you could have just sent me back to Tuskegee. You didn't give me the voucher. You wanted me to be homeless. You wanted me to be homeless. But you'll pay. And I mean money. I mean money. And your reputation. And hopefully your license. Because I'm stronger, I'm better, I'm wiser. I've created an organization. I've helped over 25 women and families that would have lost their housing. And I'm homeless. I became a peer specialist fighting for the rights of African Americans with mental illness in public housing. And that's without a voucher. That's going hungry after sexual assault and everything that I went through. Addiction, having to overcome, because you can't function, you're not used to it. But I fought, and I'm here, and I'm strong. And I will represent African Americans. I will give us a voice. I will work with ADAP. I will work with Wings Over Alabama, whatever it is now. I will work with the governor's office on disability. I will work with the governor's office on minority affairs. I will have a grant from HUD. I will use everything that you've done to me for others. Nothing that you've done to me, nothing that I've suffered will go to waste. On April 18th, Charisse Allen was provided a notice of termination on Title 24, Part 982552. And it's so convenient how Tommy, he writes down all of these laws, but he leaves out all of the ones that tell you your rights. Let me tell you how just disgraceful this guy is. He actually is helping lawyers against people that have false claims of disabilities. There are no disability lawyers here. There are no lawyers that know low-income housing law. But you choose to help. I mean, Tommy, you're a piece of work. You are scum. You are a piece of work, honey. And so I said, no prob. So the next day I sent him this. Oh, I'm sorry. On the next day, I sent him this. I asked for a hearing on the 19th. Oh, that's my aunt's letter saying that she gets $153 personally, so that she has gas money to drive me around to my appointments. Now, thank you guys for hanging in there with me. It's taking a lot of courage to do this. I'm nervous. I don't want to do it. I mean, I just know I need to. I can't go on like this anymore. I can't. I just can't do it. After this Saturday, I need help. I need money. I need shelter. I can't do it. I can't. And there are people that have turned their backs on me because I chose to fight. But I believe that that's why God allowed me to go through this. Everybody can't do what I do. And I could never have done it without the people, the few, but the people that helped me. And you know who you are. And I thank you. And apart from regulation, and then they tried to say, just to go back to a threat. They tried to say I was a threat, and the first time you ever say of somebody feeling threatened is when I wrote a letter to them saying that, could you please tell Ms. Pascal to approach me in a more professional and gentle manner because it's exacerbating. And they wrote back like they wrote back to me a letter, and this is early on. It has nothing to do with this. I just want to approach the fraud that he gave to the judge. But I was the first one to write a letter about the aggressiveness and everything, and then they wrote me a letter back like they were the ones, and that letter that they were the ones that did it, and then they called the police. Like anytime I would just like breathe hard or anything. I mean, it's so amazing how they behave like it's 1947. Like Negroes sitting at the counter for pie. We can't blink. We can't look at a black woman or we're going to go to jail. I mean, it's amazing how racist and what they're used to getting away with here. It's really, really sad. It's really, really sad how little affluent blacks stand up for each other. And that's why, for the poor and for the disabled, and that's why they're able to do that. But I plan to change all of that. And I've got some things in my own life that have come from being homeless and being desperate. And but I thank God because I have a fair judge and compassionate judge. My heart just says that. The prosecutor, I feel that he's fair and he's compassionate and he's honest, and whatever it is that God decides, you know, I know that he knows. He saw everything and he knew everything that I was going through at the time, and I'm just going to trust him. I'm going to trust him. But I'm not going to bag down. I'm not going to stop fighting. I'm not going to stop fighting for my justice. That's all I want. All I want for Christmas is justice. All I want for Christmas is a home, somewhere to lay my head. Of the regulations of the House and Urban Development based upon her failure to sign and submit mandatory consent forms for obtaining. So my housing was taken for not committing fraud, and then as well as engaging in threatening behavior and abusive and violent behavior. There was nothing violent about what I did. I did not throw a chair. I came in and threw the bird, and they deserved the bird 6 months before I threw it. But because I am calm, and he was threatening. The way he saw the way he slammed that paper down and told me, after you have tricked me into coming up here, you wanted me to act out. That's what they wanted me to do. You're disgusting. You're disgusting, all of you. It says, it doesn't say anything in here. Charisse Allen was also given the notice that she could request an informal hearing, which hearing request she subsequently made. On April the 21st, the AHA executive director received a call from Birmingham saying that I had called and told Sherilyn Gardner, that psychopath, wherein Charisse Allen stated she was going to come to the housing authority and lay her hands on Miss Pascal and pop two in her. First of all, I am a lady, I am a Christian, and I'm a strong black woman. Those words would never come out of my mouth. You never showed a tape, but I'm showing evidence. You can't prove anything in this paper. But they took your word because you're white. They took your word because you're a so-called lawyer. I got proof. They took her word because she's HUD. Let me tell you what I told her. After I had gone to the doctor, and I knew I shouldn't have come up there because I knew you guys were just corrupt. And I came up there and spent my last $40, and I had that in my hand, and you didn't let me. I felt like Columbine. I felt like Virginia Tech. But I'm a Christian, and I have God. And I called and I begged Sherilyn Gardner for help. I said, please, they gonna kill me. I can't take it, please. She was like, whatever. Whatever. I screamed at her. I said, you're not gonna be happy till I pop two in that lady head. You won't be happy till I walk in there and hurt somebody. And it was the truth. They tortured me and tormented me. And emotionally broke me. And what they did to bring me in there and tell me that I could have my medical provisions and then not do it, and on top of that to say that I called and threatened, that's nasty. That's disgusting. That's cruel. It's inhumane. You should be ashamed of yourselves. And you will have to answer to God. I know that. If you haven't already, you will, because we all will. I'll pay for a lie detector test, because I know my heart and my intent. Because dealing with y'all, if I was somebody else other than me, they would have come in there and shot that place up. But because I'm experienced, I've been a Christian for a very long time, I was able to control myself. And you destroyed my character before a judge in district and in the 11th Circuit. You all are disgusting. You're criminals. You're liars. And you all should be fired. And I pray for y'all. I pray for y'all. How do you live with yourselves? I don't care what anybody says. I know God knows the truth. I know the people that I love know me. So there's nothing you can say and nothing you can put on this paper. There's no judgment a judge can give that would tear me down, that would make me accept who you tried to make me out to be. You're disgraceful, all of you. He skips to the 21st. On the 19th, the next day, I had been working with a 504 coordinator in Atlanta, because we don't have any here and we still don't. And this is the letter I sent the next day. No judge has seen it, because Tommy Eden hid it. No judge has seen it. No lawyer, every lawyer I had, did not know housing law and never showed it. What it says, because it was Sarah Dunwoody, who was the 504 coordinator in Atlanta Housing Authority, talked me through this, and thank you. This has never been seen. It is not listed in here. It says, Dear Ms. Pascal, I would like to request an informal hearing. April 19th, I would like to request an informal hearing. I also require a few reasonable accommodations. I would like to request that the hearing be in an impartial location because of what I perceive to be rude, aggressive, intimidating, abusive, and deliberate discriminatory treatment by the Auburn Housing Authority. I find it mentally taxing and emotionally unbearable to even walk in the door of the Auburn office. The same can be said for their attorney's office. Despite extensive medical written documentation, I haven't even shown you, cardiologists, all of them, please, 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 let her go back to Tuskegee, let her go to Opelika, let her go. They ignored all of it. It says, despite extensive medical written documentation of my mental, physical, and emotional disabilities, the Auburn Housing Authority has never once considered my fragile health or any reasonable accommodation that may have spared me undue harm. Although I never intended to treat the AHA with any disrespect or aggression, the abuse of power and unethical manipulation of HUD laws and regulations warranted that response. Any mistreatment, any inappropriate action on my part was always in response to months of illegal, abusive mistreatment by the AHA. Not that it excuses my behavior, that it would moreover stand as an example for why the U.S. Department of HUD and the U.S. Justice Department created a joint statement. I'm sorry guys, I lost it. Moreover, stand as an example of why the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development and the Department of Justice created a joint statement to directly address the importance of reasonable accommodations. I would like to request for a reasonable accommodation to have a Section 504 coordinator present at the informal hearing. Although you can work in the capacity of a Section 504 coordinator while simply being employed by HUD, and or one could be named to that position and attend the meeting, I would like to request someone who specializes in Section 504 of the Americans with Disability of the Reasonable Accommodation Act. I'm sorry, of the Rehabilitation Act in reference to housing. I can suggest some choices of Section 504 coordinators I have been consulting with. Please note, I have made several verbal and written requests for a Section 504 coordinator since August, over 30 written, phone calls, emails. Requests were made to the PIH Alabama State Director Edmund Spraberry, God rest his soul, and Lee County Director Greg Price, who's been he's over a housing authority now. He's no longer with HUD. And it says, I would also like to request a copy of my entire file to be mailed to me as soon as possible so that I can prepare for the informal hearing. I would also like for a copy of my rights and the hearing and or appeal process to please be included. This letter right here does not exist anywhere. The judges have never seen it. They skip to April 27th and say they're going to give me they're going to give me they just made up something that they were going to give me. I mean, just slaves. Like my rights. I mean, it's just like you go in there and they're 12 white old men, making a decision that a young black boy kissed at a woman or stared at a woman. I mean, it's just like absurd. You have 10 days to give me that hearing. I've never had it, and the judge never heard about it. And HUD, all the way up to Susan Crawford, you never acknowledged it. So that's 2 right there. 3, because you never acknowledged that I asked on paper and emails over 30 requests for a 504 coordinator. You never acknowledged it. You never acknowledged that I didn't have a right to do my deductions, my medical expenses. That's a violation of my 504 rights. And on April the 30th, the lawyer for my other case, he had to keep coming in. They call him my lawyer, but I didn't need a lawyer. I knew this law better than him. But Tommy Eden would not speak to me because I was beneath him. He would not speak to me. When I wrote that letter on the 19th, he just acted like I didn't even write it. Him and Judge Randall Thomas. And that was a conflict of interest because Randall Thomas sat on a board with 2 or 3 different members from Capel and Howard. That's not impartial. And when you're dealing with a housing authority that where HUD is not compliant for this many years, you've got to run them. You've got to run them. You can't just put a slash by the director's name and make the director the 504 coordinator like you guys did in 2013. That's absurd. That's like the president and Eric Holder. I'm talking about a real president. That's like President Obama and Eric Holder doing the same job. He's there as an impartial advisor. What in what world would a corrupt state like Alabama? But you did it because you were wrong. And when I told you were wrong, you tried to fix it and threw me under the bus. And I can name names, but I don't care about that. I want to be back on my feet. I want to be paid for my pain and suffering. Wonderfully paid. I want to put this behind me, and I want to help other black women and other black people to avoid this type of thing. So my lawyer had to step in from my other case with my heart attack case. He had to step in with this case that shouldn't have been a case. I should have been getting cardiac rehab, but I had to deal with all these ignorant people. It says, I am Charisse Allen's attorney. He couldn't help that. They would not acknowledge me. So I waited to the day after the 10th day, which was the 29th, because I knew they were in violation. Except Faith Cooper, Holly Poteet was going behind with working racist, telling Tommy Eden how to violate my rights. She's a revitalization supervisor at HUD. I want her fired. She's influenced many black women with white renters who are homeless now. Epidemic. Desperate impact. And we're going to bring charges against her. It says, I am Miss Allen's attorney. I have received the correspondence that you sent her on the 27th regarding her requirement to sign certain documents. I also understand that she has not yet been allowed to claim her various deductions. I sent this to y'all, HUD. My HUD investigator. You, Susan Crawford, Sarah Pratt, Brian Green. Y'all all have this. You did nothing. You just let these people torment me. You did nothing. And I was doing your job for you. All you had to do was make a decision to give me a voice. You did nothing. You're worse than them. I also understand that she has not yet been allowed to claim her deductions. Please either fax or mail the forms that you speak of, and I will relate them to Charisse. If they are in proper form, we will tender the required signatures. Also, Ms. Allen needs to be able to claim her deductions. Also, Ms. Allen needs to be able to claim her deductions, and this is something that must happen within the next 14 days. From this point forward, I would ask that you direct any correspondence or communication to me, and I will relay it to Charisse. Not because I couldn't do my job, because when my last hope was, I always believed at some point HUD Alabama, HUD Region 4, HUD Washington was going to come in. And at that point, I knew that their administrative law and HUD federal regs said that you have 10 days. So I knew by law they had to do it or HUD would enforce it. HUD just let them do what they want to me. It said from this point on, and he didn't know anything about these laws. Anything. But they just refused to talk to me. They discriminated. They were racist. They refused to talk to me. They thought I was beneath them. And they were terrified because I knew more than them. Additionally, an information documents only review is not acceptable. I asked for an informal hearing. Information documents, you took this to a judge and a judge said this was okay. Review is not acceptable. Please review the attached correspondence, which contains excerpts from a memorandum in support of a preliminary injunction that was successfully granted, which outlines the due process steps that must be adhered to before a recipient's Section 8 benefits can be terminated. That was Judge Cootie and a magistrate. And I love him. I love you, Judge Cootie. He was fair. Because I was with Judge Watson, I think. Keith Watson. And, I just think it was just one of those things that, a magistrate has more time to read and but a federal judge is kind of just like go, 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 go. And I don't think that it was anything personal. I just think that he kind of just looked at the facts and kept moving. And but Judge Cootie was so kind. I was homeless in Florida because I didn't have a place to go here, and Judge Cootie kept even the lawyers for my housing case in Tuskegee. They were so kind. But Auburn, horrible. It says, I am handling this housing discrimination case in federal court. It says the process that must be adhered to before a recipient's Section 8 benefits can be terminated. I am handling this housing case in federal court now, and I detect similar violations being committed by the AHA. Ms. Allen is entitled to a hearing at a meaningful time and in a meaningful manner in order to dispute whatever violations that she is accused of. And the burden is on AHA to prove this. Miss Allen is entitled to an impartial hearing officer. I didn't have that. Impartial hearing officer at her hearing, and I request that this hearing be held sometime in early June. And see, he didn't understand either. There was this misunderstanding between me and him, because my case again with Tuskegee, the 8 years I lived there, and my heart trauma that I had, it was a very, I didn't know he had just become a lawyer. He was only 25, but he was awesome and he was great, but this was too much for him to handle. And but no one else would help me. And he says, feel free to contact me if you have any questions. So basically he's telling them what they're doing is wrong. And he writes, so then what Tommy Eden does, he goes to Holly Poteet, and they cook up together how to get rid of me. But what Holly Poteet doesn't know is that in doing that, in that letter, she proved that she knew that I had asked for a hearing on the 19th, and he called her on the 30th and said, well, I got a call from her lawyer, so that means that from 19 to 29 is null and void. Any person with any dignity and any ethical etiquette for their job would have been like, her 10 days are up. You're too late. You're late giving her a hearing. You need to address that first. Our thing says, but she didn't know the law. They don't know the law because they don't practice it, because there's nobody here fighting for us. But I'm here now. I'm here now. And there will be accountability everywhere, in every organization that receives federal funding to help people with disabilities. Blacks with mental illness will be included. The last thing I'd like to show you is when she talked to Holly Poteet, and then she came back at my lawyer for another case, because I was handling my case pro se, because it was nothing for me, as you can tell. I knew the law just as well as I know it right now then. So after Holly Poteet helps him commit perjury and tells him it's okay to violate and discriminate against me, someone at HUD, a supervisor, she's racist. We've got more black women that can tell you about cases where she's done that with white landlords. And so this is what he writes, my lawyer. He goes to Holly Poteet on August 3rd. She writes him back on August 3rd, and he sends a letter basically just kind of saying all of this stuff that's going to be defended. Now this right here says everything you've done to me. HUD headquarters. This is why I want immediate assistance. Next Saturday, I want somebody to call me Monday at 334-212-2366 Monday, because I will need a voucher and somewhere to go by Saturday. So by Monday, I expect someone to call me, or it goes viral. And that's not a threat. I'm tired. It says, Tommy. Now, I don't know anything about these letters. I don't know anything about anything. Everybody's doing stuff without talking to me, but nobody knows the laws but me. Alabama, Lord Jesus. But that's okay. We're going to empower ourselves, and we're going to speak for ourselves. And we're not going to need anybody. Ain't that right? My boy, you know who I'm talking to. Okay, it says, Tommy, I have received your letter dated August the 3rd. And the sad part about this is I was still in my home. HUD still could have done something. It says, Tommy, I have received your letter dated August the 3rd, 2011, as well as the supporting documents. Obviously, I dispute the veracity of much of what was stated in them. However, I really don't see the need of stating every objection and discrepancy with your letter at this point. And in bold letters, every time I say she, he has them she in bold letters. It says, Tommy, I like and respect you, but the second to last paragraph in your letter quintessentially reflects Miss Allen's grievance with AHA, the Auburn Housing Authority, with Capel and Howard, and with Judge Randall Thomas, as well as adds to their legitimacy. Miss Allen expressed to both you and Judge Thomas that she would be representing herself. At that point, no further requests for accommodations from me were needed. She drafted the letter requesting reasonable accommodations that weren't met. She requested that the hearing date be moved based on her emotional stability the day that the alleged hearing was held. She requested that a Section 504 coordinator be present at the hearing. If one wasn't present in Auburn, one could have been hired or contracted to assist Miss Allen as needed per federal regulations. She requested a copy of her entire file at Auburn Housing Authority, as well as all documents that would be presented at the hearing and used against her. Under federal housing law, if those documents aren't provided to her in advance, once she requests them, which they were not, a housing authority is barred from utilizing or referencing them at a due process hearing. They used everything, and they sent me nothing. They act like I was invisible. And HUD, you let them do it. Everything that's on here, I called and I told Washington, I told Osageda, I told Jennings in Region 4, and I told German, and I told the one before him. And Michael German was especially smug and disrespectful, especially. It says that she requested a copy of her entire file, and if it was not given to her under federal housing law, those documents aren't provided to her in advance. Once she requests them, a housing authority is barred from utilizing or referencing them at a due process hearing. Lastly, I can verify. HUD, you have this letter. Sarah Pratt, Brian Green, Susan, you had this letter. You had everything I'm showing you when you found a determination of no violation against my 504 rights after I had fought for years to keep my case open. But we'll get around to that. It says, lastly, I can verify. Just call him. There's the number. Lastly, I can verify that both you and Judge Thomas told me personally, after being informed that I did not represent Miss Allen in this matter, that you, in quote, felt more comfortable dealing with me, and that you would continue to do so despite having personal knowledge of Miss Allen's pro se status. Discriminatory, just disgusting. They should both never be able to practice again. Racist, and they were out of their league. Drowning, out of their league. And he knew it. That's why he didn't want to deal with me. And he was a racist, and they looked down on me. I could tell the way he looked, and he called me a nigga. He said, and he admitted to the lawyer for my case, how could you not see this and not know that my Section 504 rights, it's Section 504 violations all over the place. But you didn't care enough. You didn't care enough to read it because you don't care. HUD, you don't care. You made this mistake. Your field office overlooked Alabama. You made this mistake and made me suffer 7 years for it. Monday, I'm expecting a call. Voucher. And I'm going to be looking for houses. In Auburn. It says, lastly, I can verify that both you and Judge Thomas told me personally, after being informed that I did not represent Miss Allen in this matter, that you felt more comfortable dealing with me, and that you would continue to do so despite having personal knowledge of Miss Allen's pro se status. As I've stated, Miss Allen has rights, and she deserves to be treated with respect. You cannot circumvent. Thank you. Circumvent. You cannot circumvent a person's declaration of self-representation simply because it is more convenient for you to do so. Because it is more convenient for you to do so. I am busy focusing on my federal housing discrimination case that I have with Bob, along with other cases. So I will refrain from getting too involved in this matter. However, this latest correspondence from you only corroborates Miss Allen's claims. So I think it would be best for everyone if you could relocate, if she could relocate without incident. Thank you. And as far as my letter that I wrote, I already know Alabama. I already know how weak they are. You want the glory and the money, but not the hard work. I already knew. So, you know what I did? My letter asking for my hearing, I CC'd it to Sean Donovan. I CC'd it to Eric Holder. I CC'd it to the president. I CC'd it to my program analysts. I CC'd it. Sure did. I sure did. And there's no mentioning of my letter. But it's CC'd to every last top-notch person. at HUD. So you can't say it didn't happen. You didn't look at my paperwork. You looked at me and you didn't see a human being. It's been so hard. It's been so hard. I can't even put the camera on me because I'm ashamed to be seen like this. Might break my friends' heart. The people that love me. They don't know. They don't know I've been assaulted. I've been raped. I've been strung out. They don't know. They don't know what I've been through. But it's been hard. It's been hard. I expect a call on Monday. I expect a call on Monday. And I expect for my voucher to be here and to be moving this week. As a temporary injunction of the return of my voucher until you can investigate and look over my paperwork the proper way. The last thing I have is this from my psychiatrist to HUD, Fair Housing and Equal Opportunity Headquarters, Civil Rights Director Susan Crawford. This letter was written February 23rd, 2017. My doctor just scanned over my paperwork and he couldn't believe it. He couldn't believe it. And he doesn't even know HUD law. And he said, "What do you need me to write him?" I said, "I've been begging them to sit down and let me talk through it with them so they can see." And none of you did. None of you. I represent hundreds of thousands, if not more, black women and veterans and white veterans and people and elderly, all races. But blacks, we are targeted. And there's an epidemic of black women that are becoming homeless simply because we don't have a voice. I deserve to have my housing. Why you all? I feel like this evidence is enough to give me my voucher while you investigate. 7.5 years is enough of me being homeless. While y'all go every day and enjoy your Christmas in the warmth. And I spend every day wondering what I'm going to eat, what I'm going to lay my head, what am I going to do? A temporary injunction is the most appropriate thing that you can do. An immediate voucher and a monetary amount to sustain me while you go back and investigate my case in the proper manner. Susan, when my psychiatrist read over my paperwork, who is the only person that had the respect enough to go through it page by page with me and do something. And he's white. And he's awesome. And he saved my life. To whom it may concern, Miss Allen has asked that I write a letter on her behalf informing you of the need of an emergency medical reasonable accommodation. He said it was an emergency medical reasonable accommodation for a meeting so Miss Allen may discuss the evidence that has been overlooked and not included in her housing investigation. We feel that it would be best if this meeting would be handled by HUD. FHE, it says D, but you know what I mean. You know what I mean. I couldn't make it back to change it, and I didn't want to, change it up. But you know what I mean. FHEO headquarters. Civil Rights Director Susan Crawford. Since Miss Allen's statute of limitations will be up in the early part of March, we feel that allowing Miss Allen to be heard is a needed necessity at this time. This is very urgent, as she is in need of housing and has deteriorating health. If you have any questions or need further information, please contact me. James H. Edwards, MD, 4 years. 4 years. I had forgiven you guys, and I was just going to move on because I thought God was like, he has another plan. Just move on. And I was going to move on, and I took a job. And I wasn't at that job 2 weeks before I was fired because they did not want to give me a reasonable accommodation. Not only has Alabama not changed, it's gotten worse. And when that happened to me, because I had housing, it wasn't mine, but it was temporary and it was safe. And I gave it up so I could take this job. And I ended up on the streets because I wanted to do the right thing. And, but I knew then that God wanted me to continue to fight, because your negligence is causing a ripple effect that will destroy many, many black lives, many poor people's lives, black, white, Asian, Hispanic, Indian. And Alabama deserves better. We deserve to have a voice. We deserve to sleep in clean, respectable places. That letter that I showed you, my statute of limitation is up in March. My doctor literally begged you to help me, Miss Crawford. You violated my right to 504. My doctor instructed you to sit with me and read. And you did nothing. And you did exactly what you did exactly what Miss Sherilyn Gardner did. You covered up for liars and perjurers, and you allowed a disabled woman to suffer. Shame on you. Shame on you, HUD. Shame on you all. Shame on you all. But I expect to get a call on Monday. I expect to receive a voucher next week. I expect to receive temporary funding to get the necessities I need. And you could take all the time you want after that to investigate this case. But I have given you enough proof to show that my Section 504 rights were violated. I forgive you. Excuse me for my passion. Excuse me for some of my cursing. I'm trying to work on that. It's just very difficult for me to talk about this because it hurts. But forgive me. I forgive you all. But somebody needs to call me on Monday. I need to have housing and a voucher next week. It is the right thing. This is Charisse Allen, creator of the Alabama Fair Housing Network. It's a volunteer organization. I fight for the rights of African American women and children with mental illness living in federally funded housing. You can reach me at my email. Not you all. You can only call me. Anybody else, you can reach me at my email, Alabama Fair Housing Network @gmail.com. Thank you.